What's up everybody and welcome to another Star Citizen video. My name is Scary Spikes and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at the RSI Constellation Taurus. Before we get started though, a huge thank you to RustyHook84 as well as all my wonderful channel members and patrons for helping to support what I do. If you'd like to help support me directly, you can click on the join button down below right next to the subscribe button or the link in the description and become a patron. Of course, you can also help support what I do for free and help the channel grow by making sure to like this video and share it with all of your communities, making sure to subscribe and ring the bell so that you never miss any uploads. Make sure to join me live on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern on Wednesdays and Fridays. And of course, come on over and say hello to the community at large on Discord. Both of those links can be found down in the description below. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this video. Alright everybody, let's go ahead and have a look at the exterior of this Taurus first, then we'll take a look at the interior, and when we're done that, we'll take a look at some upgrade possibilities for you as well. Now of course, we got the Taurus here in the official SSP Gaming paint job with the orange, the white, and the black, so I'm really digging that. And we're going to take a start at the front of the ship here and move our way around the port side, the rear, giggity, and then the starboard side before heading on the inside of it. So one of the things that I like and hate the most about this ship is honestly the very front of it. We see that there's a huge glass cockpit here, and this is really nice when you're on the outside of it. It's not particularly great when you're on the inside because unfortunately these bars really block the way. Now it's nice that you have a nice view angle from the sides of it as well, and you can see even the floor to a degree is made out of glass. But honestly, it's really difficult to see, and if you're trying to avoid targets or asteroids when you're flying this thing, these things definitely don't help. So it would be nice to see some kind of gold standard update for these ships. I know that the Taurus was released quite a bit later than its brothers, but it would be nice to see some kind of gold standard update to bring this up to a modern era, because it really does look quite a bit aged and honestly doesn't do you any favors when you're flying. So let's have a look at some of the other external features of the Taurus. We can see on the upper area here we do have two panels. These are going to be symmetrical on the starboard side as well. Those are going to be your VTOL thrusters. They're more like turbines though. They're not proper engines, so they do assist you in vertical takeoff and landing, and you can change these. You can open and close them with the K key, which is really nice. Now down here we have a cover, which is very similar to all of the other Constellation ships. We have one on the bottom, and we do have one on the top, albeit that one's a little harder to see. And that one covers a traditional turret with size 2 weapons. The one down here actually covers a tractor beam, so I'm hoping that that's going to be something that we get to play with soon, because that is going to be just tons of fun, picking stuff up and putting it into your belly. I can't wait for that loop to be available to play. Alright, moving towards the rear here, before we get to the mid-section of the ship, we can see that we have a traditional Constellation elevator here. This is an airlock as well, does function as an airlock, which is really quite nice, and that does take you into the crew quarters. It makes it very easy and quick to access the bridge. Now, if we look towards the landing gear here, we can see that we have a traditional landing gear that's very similar to pretty much all of the Constellation ships. The one thing that's different is the cargo bay. This is quite a bit longer, and you can fit 2 Ursa rovers in here, or about 170 SCU of cargo. More on that later on, but that's definitely really nice to be able to do. And we do have a pair of weapons down here. These are the size 4 CF447 Rhino laser repeaters. Of course, we do have one on the other side as well. As we make our way around the port side here, we can see that we have a massive engine right here just above the landing gear. That's actually what the landing gear retracts into. And then we also have a docking collar. Moving towards the rear of the ship, we'll notice some very interesting things, some that are similar and some dissimilar from other Constellation ships in the lineup. And one of the very first things that you can see, of course, is the massive size engines. I have turned them off because we're currently on aerial, and it can get a little intense here with the weather sometimes, so I've made sure that our ship isn't going to flip over by turning these engines off. Now, as you can see, we don't have a little ship here. We don't have a little snub fighter in the back, and that's because not only do you not get one on the Taurus, but it's not compatible with the Taurus either. The reason for that is you have a very special area here, which we'll take a look at during the interior tour, where you can actually have cargo inside which cannot be scanned. This could be, illicit cargo like drugs, or it could even be dead bodies. And I've actually tested this out. If you have a dead body anywhere else in your ship and you try to get close to a station, they will open fire on you immediately after they scan you, and you're going to get a crime stat. If you have one in the back here, they can't scam that, and you can go ahead and land dead body and all. So it's pretty awesome. Now, moving on towards the other side of the ship, we'll notice that everything is pretty much exactly the same, so we're not going to spend too much time here. But again, we have our engines, our landing gear, and we even have an auxiliary docking collar here on the other side as well. And finally, that leads us back to the other end of the ship where we can see our elevator, and that's where we're going to go ahead and head up to have a look at the rest of the ship from the inside. All right, so let's go ahead and start the interior tour by having a look at the cockpit and all of the features therein. And the first thing that we're going to notice, of course, is that we have just a plethora, a cornucopia, if you will, of different displays here that give us all sorts of information, which is always great to have. We have a pair of displays down on the bottom to the left and right of our periphery here with a number of different buttons and switches, which is really nice. These are new. These weren't here before as far as I know. And of course, we do have the annunciator panel that is split on top of both of them, which is always really nice. So this is generally going to be in your field of view all the time, and it's great to be able to have that because then you don't have to really spend too much time looking around. It's just right in front of you. If we look up top, we'll see that we have 3 different MFDs there, the little small ones. That's not too bad. You don't have anything too important there. You can see that by default we have weapons, comms, as well as power, which is nice. And then of course we have our shields on the top left, and on the top right we have target, which is always good. These are spaced out just a little bit further away than the ones down here, so you might have to look just a little bit in order to be able to see them. But honestly, you can always just customize these, which is why these are so great. Let's go ahead and stand up and take a look at the rest of the interior, including the bridge here. As we can see, we do have the turrets here, the top turret and the bottom turret. And one of the things I should mention here is that if you do get in the top turret, you might not be able to get out. And if you find yourself in that problem, simply just turn around and move around until you can hold F and left click to get into the bottom turret. Doing so will unbug you somehow, and then you can hold Y to get out, and then you should be free to go. We don't call those bugs, ladies and gentlemen. We call them features. Let's go ahead and move on and take a look. We have a number of other seats available here, 2 in total, each with 1 MFD. And what's interesting to note is that you also have the capability of helping your pilot out here if you happen to be a co-pilot or flight engineer or whatever you'd like to call those positions. Because in the RSI Constellation ships, you do have the option of actually changing settings, like, for example, the power distributor or the capacitor to help your pilot with different ship systems in the ship. So that's really nice to see, and it would be nice to see that in other areas, in other ships as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and head over to the crew compartment and have a look inside. I want to show you some of my favorite features of this ship, and of course, the very first one is going to be right here. You're probably wondering, what is this? Well, it's being able to see the outside world from the inside of the ship, looking literally straight through the ship's wall. Now, I can hear some of you crying in the comments already saying, but surely, Scary Spikes, this is a bug, not a feature. No, it's definitely a feature. Let me explain. So let's say that you are orbiting your favorite planet and you're wondering, do I wear my Pembroke or my Novikov, or do I just wear my everyday thing? Well, you don't really know, and you can't be bothered to ask the ship computer because it's only right 45% of the time, and even if it's right, it only gives you measurements in Celsius. And that's why it's a feature and not a bug. Moving right along. Over here, we can see that we have our shoilet, or the shower and toilet combo. Unfortunately, this is in-op as well, but if you do need to take a space poop, you will have 2 options. Either do it in the grate, close the door, and hope that nobody walks in there until you go ahead and land at a station, or just go ahead and land at a station and take your space poop there. Moving right along, we have the airlock system here. This is also your main ingress and egress point out of the ship, which is really nice, and does actually function as a proper airlock, as you can see there. Very nice. I would definitely be very careful walking over this area here during quantum drive because it's not uncommon to be sucked out of the ship. And trust me, I know that from personal experience. Now, walking over here, we can see that we have a number of little closets or little lockers that you can have access to. Unfortunately, these don't allow you access to the ship inventory, which is something that you still have to do with the I key. It would really be nice for immersion's sake to be able to do that, but at least you can still play with the doors, even though you can't really do anything else at the moment. But hopefully soon. TM. Now, moving our way over to the right-hand side here, we can see that we do have a table that's built into the floor, so that's great. And we also have a bench. Unfortunately, both of these have been pretty much broken since 3.8, and I hope that they do get fixed soon because there's really nothing that I enjoy more than loafing around. Now, of course, the last feature here is really, really awesome, and this is very similar to some of the ships from MISC, namely the Freelancer line, which is that you are basically in these little cubbies here, and they are not just beds, but also escape pods. Now, of course, the escape pod function is in-op as well, hopefully to be introduced at some point in the future, but it's nice to know that you have your own little spot here that you can rest in comfortably and, you know, eject out of the ship should shit hit the proverbial fan. All right, so the mid-rear area of the ship here is sort of where the party's at. And we can see that we have a very, very large giggity cargo bay here. This is going to be a 170 SCU cargo grid, and you can move just about anything you'd like here, from vehicles to cargo to dead bodies, whatever you like. Now, we do have a ladder here, and we do have a button on this end that you can use to operate the lift. There are also buttons down below which will allow you to operate the lift as well, and you do have one outside on that end of the lift which you can use to bring down the lift when you're on the outside of the ship. Let's go ahead and start the tour here on the port side as we walk around towards the first airlock, and my first mistake of the video, which is thinking that this wasn't actually an airlock. Well, it actually is. Unfortunately, it's not very big, and me being the big boy that I am, giggity, I wouldn't actually fit in here, but it is nice to know that if somebody were to, press a button, that everybody wouldn't just be sucked out of the ship all at once. Now, we do have some missiles here. This is really quite nice. I do like the visualization of this, and the last time I tested it, it did look as if some of these missiles did deplete as you fired them. Of course, that was with the stock Strike Force missiles, but I'm not 100% sure if this still works, as I haven't tested it just yet. So do let me know. We do currently have the Dominators on board, and they are not properly modeled here, so I am assuming that this is just for show. Now, moving on, we do have a few little components here. We've got some high voltage stuff, so we're going to go ahead and keep our paws off of that. And as we walk towards the rear of the ship, we can see that we have another ladder back here, access to the rear section of the cargo hold. For those of you guys who are wondering, you can hold 170 SCU or up to 2 Ursa rovers in here, or a number of other smaller vehicles. So this is actually a really nice little transport ship, and the fact that everything is just so easily accessible, and that you can drive them just right on and off on this little ramp here, is very, very nice indeed. So finally, on the starboard side of the ship, we have the secondary airlock. I do like how there's like a little window here, though, so you can see if the other side is open. I think that's pretty cool. And of course, we do also have our missiles as well. So let's go ahead and head to the very rear section of the ship now. The back is my favorite part, giggity. And we're going to walk through the airlock. This is brand new, by the way. The Constellation ships never used to have an airlock back here. This was always just one door. But I do like, for realism and for immersion purposes, that the airlock does exist. Unfortunately, it doesn't really work as an airlock. So it would be nice to have some kind of button or terminal in here to actually physically lock this front door and open this back door, and vice versa. Now, this is what I was talking about before. Unfortunately, sacrifices must be made with respect to not having a snub fighter. And honestly, it's not really a big deal, guys. I own a Connie, and I can tell you right now that I've probably used that snub fighter like once or twice. It's clunky to get in and out, double giggity, and honestly, it's not all that useful. So having some little extra storage space in the back here, especially in an area that cannot be scanned by authorities, is really, really good. And for those of you guys who run illicit materials or, just dead bodies, you'll be very happy with this. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get started with the upgrade process on the Constellation Taurus. Now, this thing is pretty much a beast. It's got 100k of shield hit points, a total of 1,570 DPS with 649 alpha damage right out of the factory, and a total of 91,000 just about damage with the total amount of missiles on board. So this thing is a complete beast. We are going to try to make it a little bit better, and one of the things I should note, though, is that if you do want to follow along, you can figure out how much anything costs by using the menu on the left-hand side here, searching for the item in the appropriate category, adding it into your cart, and then in the cart, it will actually show you where you can buy the particular item and how much it costs. So a very, very useful feature. We're going to go ahead and just empty the cart for now. But that's how you find out exactly where to get your things, and you can organize your routes so it's most efficient for you. Again, before getting started, this is just going to be my suggestion for how I like to run this ship. You don't have to run it the same way. And in fact, if you have, your own methods of outfitting this ship, please do let us know down in the comments below. If you check out the description, I will include the default loadout as well as my loadout, and of course we'll be including that in the loadout section in Discord as well. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started with the weapons here. As you can see, we have a total of 1570 DPS on the stock configuration with 649 alpha damage, and we have all size 5 gimbals with size 4 rhinos in tow. The good news is that we are able to change these mounts out and put a set of Omni Skies on the top set. Unfortunately, the bottom set is not as lucky, and we're not able to change them out. I'm not really sure why that's the case. Maybe it's a balance issue. But that being said, let's go ahead and change this out. Now, we have this configured to show the highest DPS, and most of you probably think, well, why not go with the deadbolt? There's a few good reasons. One is that I personally just don't like it. But two, it's a ballistic cannon, and ballistic cannons take ammo, and these are particularly short range as well, and they will not be doing as much DPS as an Omni Sky, because you will run out of ammo, and then the amount of DPS that you do between then and when you get more ammo will be exactly 0. So we're going to go ahead and stick with the Omni Skies for this. I have a set of these on each of the size 5 turrets on my Redeemer, and my god, do these things absolutely eat ships alive. Really, really good damage, pretty solid range, 29-23 now on the DPS, and 649 still, interestingly enough, for the alpha damage. So that for those of you who don't know, the alpha damage is, you know, how much damage is just one single shot going to do. That's basically what that means. Now, we're not able to change these out, but again, the good news is you're able to run your fixed weapons concurrently with your gimbaled weapons, as long as you are in the fixed weapons mode, which is the default mode. That is going to make all of them operate on a fixed basis, which means the gimbals will stop moving, and that's good, because it means you'll only have one reticle, so good news there. We're going to go ahead and move on to the turrets very quickly, and as we discussed earlier in the video, CF227 Badger, you get a pair of those, 650, that's about on par with the DPS of one Rhino, which is really quite nice. And then, of course, we have the lower mend turret with the Sure Grip Tractor Beam ×2. Not in the game quite yet, but looking forward to putting a bunch of cool stuff in the belly cargo hold of my ship with the tractor beam. I think that's really going to be interesting, and could be a lot of fun as well for Xeno Threat, because that would be so useful during Xeno Threat. All right, moving on, we've got the weapons here for your missile system, rather, and honestly, I'm not a big fan of the strike forces. I am not a big fan of the arresters. For those of you guys who've seen my Connie and Andromeda video, you probably saw me recommend, at that point at least, I don't remember, it's been a while, the cross-section missiles, and I don't recommend them anymore. And the reason for that is because the cross-section missiles, at least for now, are not working properly. I don't know if that's a bug or if that's the meta or what's going on, but you'll have, you know, pretty bad desync issues. You'll have issues where you're not going to be able to lock targets, or if you do lock them and they fly in close proximity to other objects, like other large ships or asteroids, they'll unlock. You won't be able to relock them and fire. It's just a pain in the ass. And the nice thing is the Dominators here, they are a sure bet. They always lock, they always fire. No problems. Once in a while, they do hit my own ship, which is an issue that I've noticed. But we are up a couple thousand total damage here on the missiles as well, at 93,452, where we were sitting at barely just 91k there. So definitely an improvement. I would go with the Dominator 2s, and man, you've got 24 of them on this ship, so that's pretty badass. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the shield. Now, the Connies, they did have 2 size 2 shields in the past. This was upgraded to a single size 3, which is actually quite nice. You got 100k here out of the factory, which is very, very respectable. And my options here are the FR86 and the Parapet. And just because the Parapet's a little easier for me to get based on my location in Stanton, I would go ahead and grab that. Let's go ahead and move on to power plants. We've got the Diligence by default there at 12.5k power per second. But we're going to go ahead and up that a little bit. Now, if you've got deep pockets, the Genoa is absolutely beastly at 13,750 there per second, which is really nice. I do prefer to go with that myself, but I'm not that rich. So we're going to go ahead and choose the JS 400 series. I thought for the longest time these were dead, but I'm so glad to see that they've made a comeback. So these are, of course, not the absolute best, but in terms of power versus performance, it's probably going to give you the best bang for the buck. There are also the Quadracells, although I'm not sure if they make them in this particular size. That's something else you can take a look at as well. We're going to take a look at the coolers here as well. The coolers, we do have a pair of size 2 coolers. Now, again, we've got the Industrial at the very top. If you've got money to burn, you are definitely getting the snowpacks here. I, however, do not. So we're going to go ahead and grab the Avalanches, because I got to save the money for the Org. So there we go. Avalanches are still pretty good at 5,800k cooling per second. So that's pretty nice. And this is probably the very first thing you're going to want to choose. Bolon is absolute garbage when it comes to quantum drives, and you're going to want to get something a little bit better. Now, we're going to go ahead and do this by speed. Notice that the XL1 is technically the fastest, and it has a pretty good max distance, but it is also not as efficient as some of the other ones. So you want to kind of balance whether you want fuel efficiency, you know, especially if you don't have a lot of money, you probably might want to get something cheaper, not just for the sake of paying less for the actual quantum drive, but considering the amount of fuel you're going to be gobbling up and how much more often you're going to have to go and refuel. So that's something you're going to have to keep in mind. Although 317 is coming so soon, just around the corner. And hey, your boy's got a Starfare just in case you run into trouble, okay? But I'm going to go ahead and get an XL1. And that is going to round this out. Now, of course, we have the official SSP Gaming trim here on here. We got to get, where's the orange? There's the orange. We got to get the official SSP Gaming skin on that bad boy, because why not? Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it helpful. And if you did, you can help me out in a big way by liking the video, becoming a subscriber, and ringing the bell. Also sharing the video with your community so that it can get out to as many people as possible. And of course, if you'd like to go above and beyond, you can also become a channel member down below using the blue join button right next to the red subscribe button, or you can become a patron on my Patreon. We are literally 10% into our goal for doing our studio tour, and I cannot wait to get there with you. There's a lot of really cool perks and stuff available there for you, as well as a few freebies, so make sure to go check that out. All of the links will be down below. I do also stream Wednesdays and Fridays over on Twitch at 8 p.m. Eastern, so come and say hello. We have a good time playing with the community, and of course, our wonderful Discord server as well. Again, all of those links will be down in the description for you. So I hope to see you there and in the next video.